I'm 29 years old. I run my own successful online business. Our business has crushed it this year, but it hasn't always been easy for me. And so if you're listening to this and you can relate to this, like on any level, I hope this inspires you. So my mom had me when she was 17 years old. My mom was the oldest of all of her brothers and sisters. So most of my aunties and uncles are like, when I was born, they were like 9, 10, 12, 14, 17. So I was born into the family, and I was basically being raised by people that were like, you know, just slightly older than me, like old enough to be my brothers and sisters. Like having a mom that was 17 was difficult for me because she didn't really know who she was at the time. I don't think anybody really knows who they are at 17 years old. So she was still learning herself while also trying to raise me. And to be honest, to be completely frank, like I got raised by my grandma for like most of my like young years. You know, I lived with my mom for a year, and then I come back and I live with my grandma, and I live with my mom, and I come back and live with my grandma. My childhood was like pretty confusing, to be completely honest and frank. And this is a vulnerable share for me, by the way. So it's not easy for me to talk about this on a broadcast, but I want to give you guys as much value as I can. And I just want to show you what's possible. So when I was younger, I was raised by my grandma a lot. And like, I was never like a quote unquote good kid. I was the kid that was usually the loudest in like elementary school, getting kicked out of class. I also struggled with like weight issues when I was younger. Like I was like heavily overweight from like 4 years old to 12 years old, because my family didn't really have a lot of money for sports. So I was like constantly bounced around from like, I lived with my mom for a year, then lived with my grandma, then lived with my mom. And there was a bunch of different stepdads that came in and out of my life. And I never really found something that I was excited about or passionate about until I was 13. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but I became incredibly passionate about playing video games. Like, I don't know how many of you guys played RuneScape, but I was really, really, really good at RuneScape. And RuneScape was the first thing that I ever really, really focused on, where I got insanely good at. And in my mind, it told me that like when you focus on something, you can get really good at it. So RuneScape, I got insanely good at RuneScape. And then I ended up kind of falling out of it because I lost all my gold coins. We're not going to talk about that. We're not talking about my RuneScape failures today. But I really started to make a change in my life when I was 13 years old. So at 13 years old, I like stepped on the scale at the start of the summer. And this was in grade 8, and it was 12 or 13. I was getting bullied at school. Like people were calling me like man tits and like big boobs and all these like just shitty names that kids give other kids for being overweight. And I was getting all of them. So I remember stepping on the scale when I was 12. And I think that was the first time I became conscious of my weight. I stepped on the scale and I was like 150 pounds. And it was like grade 7, grade 8. And I was like, I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw these like man boobs that people were calling me. And I just like viewed myself as other people were viewing me. And I saw my gut sticking out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to lose weight this summer. So I went away to my auntie's house for a month in Lethbridge. And that whole summer, this isn't a joke, all I drank and all I ate for like food was I had this like little hot chocolate mix, and I would mix it with milk. And I thought that I was going to lose weight because I was only drinking milk with hot chocolate. But I came back from that summer in Lethbridge, and I stepped on the scale again. I was 160 pounds. So I gained 20 pounds by drinking chocolate milk. Who would have guessed? And at that point, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I'm fucking done with this. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to live like this. I remember I like looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, I'm going to make a radical change. Like I'm going to fucking make a change right now. And so I started working out literally every single day. I would go for a run. I had this like little trailer park. I was living in a trailer park at the time, and there was like a lap around the trailer park, and it was like 1.5 kilometers. And I would like run for as long as I possibly could. Then I'd walk the rest. And I had this little stopwatch on me. And in the back of the stopwatch, there was a little notepad. So every time I went for a run, and I did it every day, 7 days a week, every day I went for a run, I would write the little time that I got on my notepad, and I would try to beat it. And this was like when I was like 12, 13 years old. I didn't know how to work out, didn't know how to exercise, but I was just like, I'm going to figure this shit out because I'm sick of being overweight. I'm just like fucking sick of it. So the will is more important than the skill. If you guys think about me being 12 or 13 years old, like I didn't know how to work out and I never learned how to play sports, but I literally just decided, I was like, yo, like I'm no longer going to be overweight. Like this is like done now. It's over. It's finished. And I'm going to figure this out. So I lost 30 pounds. I remember going back in grade 9 and like being 30 pounds lighter. And literally every single person in the school looked at me like I was the new kid, because I looked so different than I did the previous year that people didn't even recognize me. They're like, who's the new kid? I'm like, I was here last year, you assholes. I was just 30 pounds heavier. But I like dressed different. I was more confident. I felt better. I knew, like, I was like, I just did this. Like, I just lost all this weight and I just became this person. So grade 9 was awesome. Get into grade 10. And this was when I was best friends with this guy. And he was like, we should try out for the football team. And I had never played organized sports before. And I was like, well, like, sure, why not? I'd been working out a little bit. I'm like, I can play football. So I remember going to the football practice and trying out for the football team. And I was quite literally, no exaggeration, the worst player on the team. Like, couldn't catch anything, like wasn't very fast, but I really liked football. And I really wanted to get good at it. So for me, it was like, I would show up to practice like 20 minutes before everyone else. Like as soon as the bell rang for school, I was out, I changed, showed up for practice. I was like doing drills by myself. When I got home, I was studying YouTube videos. I was watching, I was learning. I wanted to get better. I wanted to improve. My grade 10 year, I went from being the worst player on the team to being the most improved. I earned like this little most improved trophy, but I was just hungry. I went into that summer. I was like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to fucking crush it this next year. My grade 11 season, I ended up coming back and I'd worked out the entire summer. So when I came back, I was faster. I was stronger. I moved better. And I ended up being a captain in my grade 11 year for my football team because I ended up getting so good. And then by my grade 12 year, I was the captain of the team and I led the team and we went to city finals in the city. And you guys got to remember, like in grade 10, I was the worst player on the team. The will is more important than the skill, right? I didn't have any football skills. Like I never played organized sports my entire life, but I tried out for that team and I was the worst on the team. And I was like, I'm going to fucking figure this out. Like I'm going to dominate. I would study, I would practice, I would train harder than everyone that was on the field. I just wanted it. Like I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to win. I actually wanted to play pro football, but that's like a little bit of a side note. In high school, I ended up dealing with a little bit with an injury. Like I got injured in my grade 12 year trying out for Team Alberta. And at that point, that's when I started, bartending, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So bartended for a couple of years. You guys know that story. Like went way too far down the rabbit hole, went from like bartending and having fun to, doing substance abuse. But even like, if you look at my bartending career before the substance abuse happened, like I started as a nightclub bartender when I was 19. And within 4 weeks of me being there, I just wanted to be so successful at that thing. I ended up getting promoted to the Thursday night manager within 4 weeks of me being there. And within 2 months of me being there, I got promoted to the manager. And I didn't have any like skills, nightclub bartending or managing. I just wanted to be successful. Like every single shift that I showed up, I was like, I'm going to fucking do my very best to bring the most amount of people that I possibly can. I fucking want this. Like I want to win. Like I want to be successful. I didn't know how to do it, but I just did it. The will is always more important than the skill. I didn't have management skills. I just had the desire to fucking win. I was like, I want to be the best bartender that I possibly can be. So let's fast forward to this drug addiction, this substance abuse, right? Guys, when I like really realized that I was addicted to drugs, when I was addicted to cocaine and I couldn't stop myself from doing it, there was this like lull, this like period in time in my life. It was like a week where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Like I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like be like a cleaner or like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with my life. So I just sat and I laid in bed and it's just like until I figured it out. But when I moved out to that summer camp and I became a cleaner for a couple months and I was literally scrubbing toilets, I was just like thinking about what I had done with my life and kind of like spiraling into this depression. I wanted to be a pro football star. That didn't work out. I got fired from all my nightclub management jobs because I was a drug addict and I was like, I loved fitness and I loved working out, but like I wasn't going to play football anymore. And every single time I would work out and get in really good shape, it would just make me think about like the fact that I never got to play pro football. So it would just make me sad. So I was like, man, I'm just going to like, once I got this, like I got out to that summer camp and I started like setting goals for myself. And I like started like imagining what my life would be in a few years. And I started imagining myself running $1 million business. And I started imagining myself impacting millions, like literally millions of people online. I started imagining myself having this big website that had like apparel and I was helping people and people were living healthier lifestyles because of me. Like I just imagined all these things. There was like something that woke up inside of me some like desire, some like hunger, and some like deep rooted, like I'm going to fucking do whatever it takes to make this happen. That just became my life. And it was a re-spark of what had been with me all along. And I think it's one of the traits that makes me the most successful. Because when I was like, you got to remember, like when I was a drug addict scrubbing toilets at the summer camp, like I had no skills at that time. Like if anything, like I diminished all my skills. Like I lost all my fitness goals because I just spent a few months doing drugs, and I lost all my family's and faiths, like friends' faith in me. So I didn't really have connections that could get me things anymore. Like it was just me, just fucking me, and this like addiction and this vision for my life where I wanted to be a pro fitness model. I wanted to, travel the world. I wanted to own an online business. And this was literally 6 or 7 years ago. So I literally took a big hard look at my life. And when my summer camp job ended, I just decided, I was like, I'm going to be a pro fitness model. I was like, I'm going to figure it the fuck out. I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to fucking do it. The will is always more important than the skill. After that summer camp, I enrolled in a fitness competition that was 8 months away. And I dedicated every single hour, every waking minute of my next 8 months to winning that show. I would be at the gym at 5 a.m. I would crush a 2-hour-long workout. Then I would go work an 8-hour management shift at this restaurant that I got a job at. Then I'd get off work and I'd work in my online business for a couple hours a day because that was something that I wanted to get going as well. And again, like when I was working in my online business, I was still working in the same city where people viewed me as this drug addict because I just had a substance addiction for like 4 months. So nobody really took me seriously, but I just fucking knew that I wanted this shit. Like I knew it. So the 8 months passed. I step on stage at that fitness competition in Montreal. There was 35 athletes and I placed second. But for me, like second place wasn't fucking good enough. Like I said I was going to win. And so I need to win. So I registered for another show 6 months later. I hired the best coach that I knew. And I told him, I was like, my vision is to win this show. Like the reason I'm hiring you is to win. I just placed second. I trained myself and I placed second. I'm hiring the best coach that I know so that I can fucking win the show. The will is always more important than the skill. There was athletes training for that show that might have outclassed me physically, but mentally, like they weren't going to outwork me. They weren't going to outwork me. They weren't going to outpose me. They weren't going to outpractice me. They weren't going to diet harder than me. Like I just wanted this so bad. So like my willpower to win was so strong that nothing could stand in my way. So 6 months go by, like training consistently, diligently, like every single day, like nothing left on the table. 6 months go by, I win my next show. Once I won that next show, that was like a year and a couple months after my addiction, I realized I'm like, I can fucking do anything. Like I just went from like hardcore addict a year and a half ago to winning first place at a fitness competition. I'm like, I can do anything. So I set my next goal. I was like, I'm going to make $10,000 per month. That was it. I was like, I'm going to make 10K per month every month. That was my goal. And it took me another 6 months, but it was, again, every single waking minute was like focused, working towards this thing. And I didn't know how I was going to do it because, by the way, guys, there wasn't business coaches that were good 6 years ago. Like when I first started this online coaching journey, I didn't have a business coach telling me what to do. I didn't have a business coach saying you should post this or post this. I was literally just flying by the seat of my ass, like for lack of a better word. I was like lifting up my shirt and posting like pictures of my abs, and then people would DM me and I'd sell them over. Like that's what I didn't know any better. Like I was just figuring it out. But even with that system, even with not knowing any of the skills necessary in order to make it happen, I made it fucking happen. I hit $10,000 a month. And from that point, I was like, I hit 10K. I was like, I'm going to start hiring trainers now. Hired and mentored 6 trainers. We got the business to $50,000. And that this entire time, you guys, I'm always focused on like, how can I get better? How can I improve? I think that's something I've never really considered until my coach made me realize it. Me and my coach were sitting down. We were talking about our high school football days. And he was my coach in high school. That's how he was my original mentor, the guy that sparked this conversation. And I was like, man, that's so crazy because some of the players that we played with back in high school are like, they were way better than me, but I ended up playing at the next level. Like I ended up like going to the next level and doing something physically than some of the players that were better than me. And he's like, Brian, he's like, those players that you're referring to were never better than you. I'm like, sure they were. I'm like, that guy was way faster than me. That guy was way bigger than me. And then he looked at me and he's like, Yeah, but they didn't want to win as bad as you did. And I sat there and I thought about it for a second. He said this to me, and I'll never forget it. And I've been thinking about it for the last 2 weeks. He said, you have the will to win. You have the will to win. And he's like, that in itself is the most important skill an athlete needs, or anybody needs in life, is the fucking will to win. Guys, if you look at the trajectory of my life and the things that I've gone through, like having my mom having me when she was 17. I didn't meet my dad, by the way, until I was 26 years old. Born and raised in a trailer park. Like I was born and raised in an environment where like there was no money around me. Like nobody was like offering us handouts. Wasn't a lot of wealth. My family, like they did their very best and they loved me so much, but there was some things that I just didn't receive as a child. Like I didn't necessarily get, money to play sports. I didn't get to play, I didn't get a lot of those things. And so I didn't have anything handed to me. Nothing. Like I had to work for absolutely everything that I have in my life. And I also didn't require a lot of the skills that were necessary in order to make some of these things happen. Like, some of the athletes that go pro, they've got these like really high level coaches and et cetera, et cetera. Like I didn't have that shit when I first started competing. Like if you even think about the way that I overcame my addiction, like I didn't go to like addictions counseling. I just decided I was going to fucking get rid of it. And I just did. Like that's the will to win. And the will is always more important than the skill. The will is always more important than the skill, always. And this is something that I've never really considered until my coach said it to me. But like, if I can think back to all of the experiences that I've gone through, like losing, 30 pounds in a summer because I just made the decision to. I remember when I was going for runs around that trailer park, like I was telling you guys, I would quite literally imagine myself walking around with my shirt off and just seeing my abs and seeing my physique like chiseled. Because while I was running, like during the actual run, I was like, it hurt. Like my body hurt. I fucking never ran before. My joints were hurting. I wanted not to run. Like I could feel myself wanting to stop and like sometimes pass out. But I would just hold this vision in my mind of myself, like having abs, walking around, looking so good. And this vision of what I wanted was always what kept me going. It like pushed me through the physical pain. It pushed me through those moments where like my feet were so fucking sore because I was like way too heavy for my body structure. And I would just push and push and push. And even though I was in so much pain, I just kept going because I would just imagine what it was going to feel like to be that 30 pounds lighter. The will is always more important than the skill. It's like making the fucking decision that you're going to make it happen. With my football career, grade 10, I step on the field. I'm like one of the slowest players on the field. Can't catch worth shit, by the way. I still can't catch, but I can hit mother truckers like crazy. One of the slowest players on the field, like terrible hands, not really good hand-eye coordination in terms of like knowing where the player is going to be. But then by grade 12, I end up becoming the team captain and leading the team to finals. And there was people that were like, I thought were way better than me on the team in terms of athletic ability, but I just wanted to fucking win. The will is always more important than the skill. I can even think back to when I was in high school, some of the athletes that I played with were like next level caliber athletes. Like when you look like their speed, their agility, their size, but like when I look at what they're doing now, it's like they're not doing what they could have, like they didn't use their gift. They had this like amazing skill, but they didn't use their gift. And that's not taking anything away from them. Like some of them are doing things that where they're happy with their life. But for me, I'm like, you had a gift, like you had the skill, right? But it's like, you've got to have like the will. It starts with the will. That's why you guys will hear me tell stories about all my trainers that will come into my program and quite literally with like 500 followers make $10,000 in their first month because they just have the fucking will. Like my client, Christine Cardenas, is a perfect example of this. This girl has 1,800 followers and she's making 15K per month. And like people from the outside looking in are like, how? Like, how does she do that? But like Christine Cardenas has the fucking will to win. She just like wants to be successful. And so she doesn't count how many hours it takes. She doesn't count the reps. She doesn't count how many leads she talks to. She just does it until it fucking happens. The will is always more important than the skill. And like, guys, my goal with my life is I want my life to be a testament for what's possible with your life. Because like you just heard my story. Like there's nothing special about me. Like there's nothing like inherently like I had a better upbringing, or I had better circumstances than you, or XYZ, or I had this thing given to me. And like it's an internal feeling that we all can access. It's an internal desire that we can all access. It's this like internal, like I will do whatever is necessary in order to accomplish my goal. And I think that the reason that a lot of us don't get down there and really access this root feeling that will allow us to break through obstacles and smash down barriers is because we're afraid. We're afraid of like, yo, what if I put my all in and I fail? What if I give my absolute all and I create this intense desire to live a fulfilling life and make $10,000 a month as an online coach, and I give it my all and then I fucking fail? That's the point. You're supposed to fail. But like if one of my football coaches used to say to me, like, if you're going to fail, I want you to fail at full speed. Like be going all out, then fail. Then you can make adjustments, because you never really know where you're going wrong in your coaching business until you're playing at full fucking speed. And my question for you, online coach, if you're listening to this right now, is if you understand that the will is more important than the skill, my question for you is, how bad do you actually want to succeed? And if the answer is a lot, how much effort are you putting in, and how much are you playing at full speed to match that desire? Like, what's your level of willpower and resilience on a scale of 1 to 10? And give yourself an honest answer. Because most of you guys that come to me in the DMs or on Facebook or on Instagram or email me or whatever it is that want to learn how to grow an online business, most of you guys come to me looking for how to attract more clients. How do I convert more clients, B? Yo, what's the best way to get more clients into my program? Like I want to get to 5K a month right now. I'm at 2K a month. What do I need to do? And 99% of you that are coming to me are looking for strategy, are looking for a game plan. And like, don't get me wrong, like strategy, game plan, skill is all a necessary part of being successful. But I actually think if you just developed a bullish fucking attitude and you just like decided that you were going to win, like that decision is more valuable than the strategy, because that decision over time will lead you down the right path. That like internal, like I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes to be successful. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much pain I have to go through. I don't care how many rejections I have to go through. I don't care how much adversity I have to go through. I don't care what obstacles I must face in order to be successful. I will find a fucking way. Like that's when it happens, you guys. And now like I'm gifted, like I'm blessed. I get the chance to come on my podcast every single day. And I have a voice now. And there are people that listen to me every day, talk about my story, and I get the opportunity to inspire. And my mission is to reach one person with this message. I want fucking one of you listening to this podcast to listen to what I'm saying and like realize that like you have the power to do whatever the fuck you want to do with your life. And if you're an online coach specifically, what that means for you is you can make $10,000 a month. You can quit your job that you don't like if you don't like it. You can have enough money to buy your family a new house if you want to do that. You can have enough money to take your girl on vacations whenever you want. You can have enough money to like feed your family more than enough and like help other people that are in your life that you care about. Like those are all realities. You can completely transform people's life using social media with your phone, with Facebook and Instagram. I do it every single day. And if I can do it, so can you. And the last thing I just want to talk about, you guys, before we kind of like end this podcast, is the actual podcast itself. When I started the podcast, I've said on every episode from episode 1, what do I say at the start of every podcast? This is the #1 show for online fitness coaches who are trying to grow successful online business. I knew that I wanted to do that when I started the fucking podcast. When I started the podcast with 2 episodes, do you actually think at the time it was the #1 podcast for online fitness coaches? Like, was it when I started it? No. There was a lot of other podcasts that were probably more valuable, but I knew that I was going to be #1, and I knew it was only a matter of time. Because I already made that decision in my head when I started the podcast. I'm like, I'm not going to start this fucking podcast and do it once a week and put out 1 episode and hope that it blows up. I'm like, I'm going hot. 5 episodes a week, every single week, until I take the #1 spot. And then once I take the #1 spot, I'm going to set the next goal and I'm going to climb the next ladder until I become #1 overall. Like that's the mission. And so for me, like everything I do is littered with this, like the will is more important than the skill. I didn't know how to fucking podcast at first. I didn't know how to put episodes together. I didn't know how to get my graphics on the podcast app. I didn't know how to produce my own. I didn't know any of these things. But when I started the podcast, I made the decision that I was going to be number one, and I manifested. I spoke it into existence. Online fitness coaches, the will is more important than the skill. You have to develop a will to win. That's the only way it happens. You can have the right strategy sitting right in front of your face, the blueprint to success. And if you don't have the desire to burn through all the obstacles and do whatever is necessary to accomplish your mission, you're going to fail. Because it's fucking hard, man. Like, it's hard to be successful. It really is. You have to challenge yourself every single day. Every day there's something new. And just when you think you conquered all the obstacles, you break into a new level, and every new level has new devils. It's fucking challenging. And so you must develop the will to win. That's what it takes, online fitness coaches. That is what it takes.